Hey all, welcome back. This is B. Monica Sharma and welcome to MS Bio Academy. And today we are going to talk about the brain and its structure and function. So let's begin it. So what is nervous system? This topic is there in your course book, and what it includes, so don't get nervous by seeing the word nervous system here. Okay, so this is a very simple thing. Nervous system consists of two important parts. That is, one is the CNS, which stands for the central nervous system, and the second one is the PNS, which stands for the peripheral nervous system. So these are the two systems which constitutes together, and it is called as a nervous system. Now what is the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system? We have just understood the definition part only. So what central nervous system includes? Central nervous system include the two things. The one is the brain and the second is the spinal cord, right? So if I draw a rough diagram of this brain, and brain, we know it looks like something like a walnut, right? So if I draw like this is a walnut shape. Okay, so if you see a walnut, exactly the same way the brain looks like. So if this is a brain and there is this spinal cord is running down, so this together constitutes the central nervous system, right? Now what about the peripheral nervous system? Peripheral nervous system consists of the nerves which are originating from the brain and the spinal cord. So the nerves which are originating from brain are called as the cranial nerves, right? And the nerves which are originating from the spinal cord is called as the spinal nerves. So these are the spinal nerves which are originating. So many spinal nerves are originating, so many cranial nerves are originating. So they together constitute these spinal nerves and cranial nerve. They constitute the peripheral nervous system. And why it is important? Because obviously the brain needs to communicate with the rest of the part of the body. So it can communicate only through the nerves, right? Neurons. And that's why these nerves, the peripheral nervous system also plays an important part in our complete nervous system. So if I talk about the complete thing, this is the whole is the nervous system. So nervous system is nothing but the brain and the spinal cord, which is the central nervous system, and the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves, which constitute the peripheral nervous system. I hope this is simple and easy to understand. Now next talk about the brain, as this is the main topic of our video, right? So brain, what is brain? Brain is a very tiny organ. Although it is very tiny, but its weight almost 3 pound, which is approximately some 1.5 kilogram, right? And you will be amazed to know that this brain, although it is very tiny, it makes up a body weight of some 2% of our body weight, right? So this is actually the largest as compared to the any other organism species. Okay, so if I compare it with the elephant, like if elephant has a brain which is much larger than our brain size, but it makes only 0.15% of its body weight. Okay, so whatever the body weight of the elephant, only the 0.15% of the body weight of an elephant will make its brain weight. But in case of a human beings, in case of us, the 2% of our body weight constitutes the brain weight. Okay, so just imagine that even though the elephant has a larger brain, still we human beings have a much more or you can say we human beings have the largest brain to the body size, right? And that's why we always consider that human beings are the most intelligent supercomputer brainy people which exist on this earth. So that is why it is the reason. Similarly, if we compare brain size to the body weight with chimpanzees, we have 3 times bigger as compared to the chimpanzee. Our brain is 3 times bigger as compared to the chimpanzee too. So that again proves that we are the most brainy intelligent people. And even the brain, this tiny organ, although it looks like a very tiny, just a small walnut size, but still this tiny organ contains lots and lots of information, keeps on processing every time lots of informations. More than 10 billion tetrabytes of information is being stored and processed every time. So which is much huge as compared to any smartphone, laptops, or any technology grade thing. So still, that's why we say all computers are not that intelligent as we are, right? Because our brain stores much more information as compared to any other technology things. Brain is that very important part of our body, and it controls each and every function of our body. And we can say that brain is the CPU of our body, right? Because it is controlling, it is processing all the data, informations, everything, signaling, messaging to the different parts of the body, and from the different parts of the body, everything it is controlling. So that is very important thing. So it weighs 3 pound, or you can say it is 1.5 kg. And where the brain resides, the brain resides in the skull, or you can say it as a cranium. So I'll draw a rough diagram of a skull here. Okay, so this is a rough diagram. If this is a skull, so brain is stored, brain is present here. Okay, so these are the convolutions in the brain, if I'll say. So this portion, this complete thing, this is called as the cranium. Okay, where cranium is nothing but it is made up of the bones. Okay, so some 8 pairs of fused bones are present, and these bones are actually, what is the role of this cranium? This is actually protecting the brain from getting injured by any means. Okay, so you must have seen that whenever mostly kids, they generally bang their head most of the time, but nothing happens to their brain, right? The brain still remain fine, working fine every time. It's because of this protective covering of the bony layer, which is called as the cranium, right? So cranium is nothing but a bones, it's, you can say it is a box of bones, which is actually holding our brain safe and secure inside. Okay, now not only just the cranium which is giving the protection, but also one more thing which is called as a meninges. Now meninges are nothing but the 3 different layers which are surrounding this brain. So if you see carefully inside this brain, if this is the brain, okay, so there are 3 layers which are surrounding this brain. Actually this meninges goes till spinal cord also. Okay, so I'm not drawing there. So 3 layers are present, and these 3 layers are called as the meninges. So the 3 layers which are present is, if I start from the outer one, it is called as a dura mater. The second one is called as a arachnoid mater, and the innermost, which directly encircle the brain, is called as a pia mater. So these are the 3 important layers which are called as a meninges, which also gives an extra protection to the brain, alright, from any kind of injury. Now there is one more thing which gives the protection to the brain. Obviously brain is an important part of the body, so nature has created all these protection for the brain, that it does not get affected by any kind of a severe incident or severe head bang or anything, until and unless there is a rare condition that when there is a more severe accident happens, then only there is something like a brain damage or brain injury happens. Otherwise, in the normal cases, whenever you bang your head somewhere, bang your head on the wall or somewhere, nothing happens to your brain. This is because of these 3 important protective thing which are present, which is covering the brain protectively. So first one is the skull or the cranium, second is the meninges, and third one is known as a fluid, which is the cerebrospinal fluid. So what is the full form of this? CSF is cerebrospinal fluid. So this fluid, you can say, since this is a fluid, so you can say that brain is actually floating inside the cerebrospinal fluid, and this cerebrospinal fluid is what it is doing. It is giving a sort of cushion. So you have a cushion in your house, and they are very soft, right? They give you very cool comfort zone and cozy feeling. So that is the same thing is given to the brain by the cerebrospinal fluid. It acts as a cushion, and it protects the brain from any kind of a shock or injury, right? So that is the main role of the cerebrospinal fluid. So these are the 3 important protective layers or protective components which are protecting our brain from any kind of injury, shocks, accidents, right? So this is important. Now let's see the diagram of the brain. So the simplified diagram is this one. So this is a top view from your head. So if I draw the face like this is a nose part, okay, of one particular human being, right? So this is the top part. From the top we are viewing it, and you can see, as I've told you, this shape is like a walnut, right? You can see, you can memorize that walnut, and we know that walnut is actually if we consume daily, it improves our brain memory, right? That's what elder says. So you can memorize that it is the shape of a walnut only, and these 2 halves, you can see that there are 2 halves are there. Okay, so these 2 halves, there is in between, they are being connected by means of a tissue which is known as a corpus callosum. So this corpus callosum, this tissue is basically involved in connecting the left half with the right half. Okay, and these left and the right half are called as the cerebral hemisphere. So you can say this is the left cerebral hemisphere, this is the right cerebral hemisphere. Okay, so these cerebral hemispheres also have a very important thing, which is which will actually amaze you, that the left side of our brain, or you can say the left cerebral hemisphere, actually controls our right side of the body part function. Okay, so if this is one individual, the left side of the our brain is going to control the right side of our body part. Okay, and the right side is going to control the left side of our body part, complete body part. So if there is certain kind of injury happens in the right side of our brain, let's suppose there is some injury happen in the right cerebral hemisphere, so what will happen, our left side of our complete body part will become paralyzed, right? So that is how it is, they are controlling the opposite portions of our body part. So this is important thing. Now if I see this brain structure, this is a top view. If I tilt this and we'll see the side view. Okay, so this is how it will look like. So this is a human being, and this is the side view of our brain. So this upper portion which was we were seeing here, this is the one. Okay, this is the one, which one? Okay, and this whole complete thing is called as the cerebrum. This is the largest part of our brain, which is the cerebrum. And here you can see this portion, right? This portion complete. I'll just color it with a yellow. So this portion is called as a cerebellum. Cerebellum. There is a slight difference between the spelling of both of them. This is the cerebrum and this is the cerebellum. Okay, now cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. Okay, as you must be as I have told you, and cerebellum, though it is the smallest and it is present just at the back of just below the cerebrum and just back of your head, but still it is very important in performing different functions, like it helps us in standing, in balancing on the floor. So you are not every time, since gravity is pulling us, right, every time. So if we are going to stand, we will not be able to stand straight, we'll keep on leaning on one side, but this leaning doesn't happen because the cerebellum help us in keeping that balance and keeping us standing straight only every time without getting us fall. Okay, so this is the important role of the cerebellum. Also it is playing an important role in the coordination of different muscular movements. So whatever muscular movements, like your eye muscles movements, your heart muscle movements, your hand muscle movement, everything is being coordinated and controlled by the cerebellum. So this is playing an important role. Now the third part is known as the brainstem. So you can see here, this is the brainstem. Okay, so this is the brainstem. So these are the three important parts of the brain. Is the largest part is the cerebrum, then at the back is the small one which is known as the cerebellum, and at the base it is, which is joining the spinal cord, it is the brainstem. Now what is the role of the cerebrum? This is the largest part, so obviously we can divide this into a further small lobes. Okay, so cerebrum is basically divided into 4 lobes. Now this is important to memorize. This is divided into 4 lobes. So if we start from here, so this is complete is the cerebrum. So if I divide this, okay, so if I draw a line like this, so this is the front portion. Since this is the front portion of us, so this is known as the frontal lobe of a cerebrum. Now here it is the parietal lobe. This one, this is the parietal lobe. Now this one you can see at the back, just if this is the eye for human being, so just at the back of the eye, this is the occipital lobe, and here it is the temporal lobe, just above your ear. If you just see above your ear, that is the temporal lobe. Now since it is above the ear, so you can just memorize that this temporal lobe is mainly responsible in the controlling the hearing thing, hearing sensations, then understanding the language and memory part. While the occipital lobe, as I've told you, it is just if this eyes is starting here at the back of the eye, just opposite to the eye, it is the occipital lobe at the back, and that's why this occipital lobe you can memorize like this way, that occipital lobe is mainly involved in the vision and in identifying different colors. So the colors which you are seeing here, like yellow color, white color, everything black color, this is because your occipital lobe is working fine here, right? Then coming back to the parietal lobe, what is parietal lobe is doing? Parietal lobe is mainly involved in the interpreting different languages. Okay, so whatever languages like Hindi and English, if you know, or any other languages, you know, so you are able to interpret that by means of a parietal lobe. Okay, and also various kind of a sense of touch or any kind of a pain. If you get hurt, the pain sensation is because of the parietal lobe. So these are the important role of the parietal lobe. Then coming back to the frontal lobe. Now frontal lobe is very important thing. Frontal lobe is actually playing an important role in our intelligence, in our body movement, in our speech, whatever I am speaking right now, whatever I'm writing right now, all these things are being controlled by the frontal lobe. Okay, my behavior, my emotions, whenever I feel sad or whenever you feel happy or whenever you feel angry, everything is being controlled by your frontal lobe, right? So emotions, writing, speaking, speeching, intelligence, your body movement, your judgment, your problem solving ability, like whenever you solve any problems, mathematical problems or logical problems, that's being controlled by the frontal lobe. So these are the important roles of these 4 lobes of the cerebrum. Okay, so now you remember cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. It has 4 lobes: the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and the temporal lobe. Now the next, cerebellum, I have already spoken. It is involved in balancing of our body and muscular, in coordination of the muscular movement. Now brainstem is basically it is involved in communicating to the rest of the part of the body. Okay, so obviously brain need to communicate with the rest of the part of the body. So how it will communicate? It is going to communicate through the spinal cord and through the cranial nerves. So there are some 12 pairs of cranial nerves which originate from here, and that's how the brainstem is able to communicate with the rest part of the body. Also brainstem, since it is able to communicate with the rest part of the body, so brainstem is mainly involved in all those functions like the breathing, the involuntary functions which we don't know, which are not under the conscious state. We know that it is happening inside our body. For example, breathing, we don't know that breathing is still happening even though when we are sleeping, that time also we are keep on breathing, inhaling and exhaling. So that all thing is being controlled by the brainstem. Then again, your stomach digestion, we don't tell our stomach to digest food, it happens automatically, right? So involuntary. So those all things are being controlled by the brainstem. So these are the important roles and functions of these 3 different parts of the brain. Now if I am going to explain this cerebrum part and the different parts in a more detailed way, so we can look this picture here. Okay, so this is again the detailed way of explaining the brain structure. So this is the uppermost part is the cerebrum, as I've told you here. This is the cerebrum, and we have discussed that it is divided into 4 lobes. Now you can see here inside the cerebrum there are certain kind of these folds and depressions and grooves are seen, right? These are the grooves are there. There are some elevations are there, right? Depressions are, what are these? These are the elevations are called as the gyri, and the depressions or the grooves are called as the sulci. Now why this is required, these foldings and all? Because you know that brain is made up of millions of neurons, right? And neurons is required for passing or the signals from one end to another throughout our body, right? Also inside the brain. So neurons is required, and if brain will require lots and lots of neurons. You can't imagine how many neurons are there inside our brain, right? So to accommodate more and more neurons, we need to increase the surface area of the brain. Now these foldings and depressions, gyri or sulci, they are actually helping in increasing the surface area of this brain, so that more number of neurons can accommodate this place, right? And better signal passage can happen. So that is the main role of these things. Okay, so this is about this. Now here you can see this portion. This is, here I have written that this is the thalamus, and below this there is a hypothalamus. Okay, and just below this this gland is hanging, which is the pituitary gland. And pituitary gland, we know it is a master gland. Why we call it as a master gland? Because it controls the function of other endocrine glands in our body, right? So it is under the control of the thalamus. Now what is hypothalamus's main role? Hypothalamus actually act as a thermostat of our body. Now thermostat means it is going to control the temperature in our body. Thermo means heat, right? So whenever you your body gets heated up, what we do? We generally sweat, right? So that is actually the way the hypothalamus sends the signals to our body that start sweating now and drop down your temperature. So our temperature again come back to our normal state, which is a 37 degrees Celsius, right? Now when the condition happens that our body temperature goes down, we feel very cold, then the signal sends and we started feeling shivering. So this is all being controlled by the hypothalamus. So shivering will again will raise the temperature of our body and will get back to its normal state, which is 37 degrees Celsius. So this is the way how the hypothalamus works. So it is a thermostat of our body, you can say. All right, so this is all about the brain structure. So this is all we have discussed. Now brain stem, here one more thing I would like to mention here, that brain stem is made up of the two important part. The first is the pons variouli, okay, pons variouli is there, and second it is made up of the medulla oblongata. So medulla oblongata, this is involved in all sort of functions like which are not under control, like vomiting control, okay, or your blood pressure control. This is all being controlled by the medulla oblongata. So this is all about your brain structure and different functions, right? I hope this is clear to you. Let me just brief you in detail, okay? So some important points we can memorize it again, okay? Before that, one more thing I would like to mention here, in a simple way, like we have discussed in a very detailed way, that it is made up of cerebellum and brainstem. In a simple way, you can divide the brain into three important parts, okay? You can divide it as a forebrain, or you can divide it as a midbrain and the hindbrain. Now what do you mean by this? The forebrain is this portion, the uppermost portion. Midbrain, between the forebrain and the hindbrain, okay, here somewhere here. And the hindbrain is this lower portion of the brain, right? So this is a simpler form in which we can divide it, right? So let's have a look into this. So parts of the brain you can divide: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. And forebrain contains the cerebrum and one more portion, which is the diencephalon. So cerebrum contains, we know it is a cerebral hemisphere, left and right cerebral hemisphere, and cerebrum we have already discussed, it has certain kind of elevations which are known as gyri and depressions which are known as sulci, and they are mainly involved in the thinking, problem solving, your emotions, your speech, speaking, intelligence, body movement, etc. The second part of the forebrain is the diencephalon, which are involved in the different sensory impulses, and it has the two parts, thalamus and hypothalamus, which also we have discussed in our diagram slide, right? So these are the two important parts of the forebrain, the cerebrum and the diencephalon. Diencephalon is consist of the thalamus and hypothalamus. Hypothalamus, I have told you, it is the thermostat of our body, right? Next is the midbrain. Midbrain is present between the forebrain and the hindbrain, and the main function is, since it is present in the mid of the forebrain and the hindbrain, it is involved in the exchange of the signals from the brain to the spinal cord, or from the spinal cord to the brain. So that is the main function of the midbrain, right? Hindbrain is consist of cerebellum. So the lowermost portion, at the back, I've told you the cerebellum is present. So if this is the cerebrum, right, at down portion you have seen that cerebellum is present, which is involved in the balancing and posture movement and muscular body movement, right? So that is cerebellum, and the second part is the brainstem. So brainstem and cerebellum constitute the hind part of the brain, right? And brainstem, I have told you, it is made up of two parts, pons variouli and medulla oblongata. So this is all about the brain. I hope this is clear to you. If you have any queries, please do let me know in the comment section down below. And if you like it, please do subscribe my channel MS Bio Academy. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.